Fitzy and Whipper with Kate Ritchie podcast.
Daily Telegraph crime reporter Josh Hanrahan. I got that right, didn't I, Joshy?
Third time.
Thank you, buddy.
Welcome.
Crim City
Names are not his strong
Don't
point.
worry about names. Crim City is the podcast as well. Mate, there's been a lot going on in Sydney. We wanted to get you on. There's an article in the paper this morning you've written which is extremely powerful. We'll touch on that in a moment, but I'm not saying you're out of a job, but I'm saying Tom Ivey was almost witness to the bikie incident that took place in Kirribilli, where someone was shot in the leg last week.
Yeah, well,
Josh.
Neutral Bay, Joshy, we saw smoke everywhere. Cops, the air wing were there, the fire trucks, and one of the car parks was up in smoke. With the did they dump the car? Is that right?
Yeah, they dumped a couple of cars. The first one was at Neutral Bay, and then it's interesting some of the tactics now. They waited until the next morning to ditch the next car to put a bit of time between it. But yeah, the police are looking for a bloke in his 40s with curly grey hair and that.
Middle-aged woman, I thought.
Either way.
Sure, it's a bloke.
Very good, Josh.
Joshy's got it away. Hang on a sec. Congratulations, sir. You've got yourself a ding. Joshy, is someone still on the run, or do they know who shot this person?
No, there's a couple of people still on the run for that. So yeah, it was, as you said, middle of the afternoon, Kirribilli, not far from the Prime Minister's residence when he's in Sydney.
Wow.
A man called Abdul Baghdadi, who has long been known to be an underworld figure, has done serious jail time for a carjacking and some other offences. And I heard of another witness account of somebody who was out running, and they said, I'm always a bit suspicious when I see a person running in jeans. And they saw some guy run past her in his jeans, and she went, what's going on here? And then next minute she saw a car speeding off and didn't really think too much about it, and then saw on the news and went, I've seen that guy before. So,
oh God,
yeah, not out for a leisurely jog.
No. Can I ask, Josh? Do you know was the idea to send a message and just shoot him in the leg, or did it not go to plan?
No, I think initially it was put to me that it was just, an old-fashioned kind of kneecapping gone wrong. But I think now the belief is that this was another attempted assassination on the streets of Sydney that, luckily only one of the bullets hit.
You know what's fascinating, Kate, over the time we've had Josh and Moz on the show, these guys are across what happens and what often triggers the wars between the two families or whoever it might be in the underworld bikie or drug rings. Is it settled at the moment, Josh, or are we at war?
In the last probably 4 months, it is settled a little bit.
Right.
You might remember in the middle of the year we had that spate of shootings, particularly the big one at Bondi Junction.
Yep.
Which shocked a lot of people because things like that aren't meant to happen in Bondi.
Yeah.
And then there was a couple of incidents off the back of that. There was a couple of shootings in Greenacre. A lawyer was shot. That rattled a lot of people because, again, that was a step out of the ordinary. And that led to police creating this task force Magnus, which you may have heard of, which saw them pull together more than 100 detectives, and they've really clamped down on these organised crime gangs in the last few months, which has seen a bit of a lull in the underworld war, thank goodness.
Yeah, but does that kind of create a bit of worry as well? Like when things go quiet, is that an indication of things to come? Do you know?
Yeah. And some people have said that. They go, it's too quiet.
Right. Is that what you see happen? There's quiet. The calm before the storm. Yeah,
at its peak, it was usually 6 weeks between shootings, like almost to the day. And I remember saying to Moz at one point, it's been 6 weeks, and that night there was a shooting.
Time, yeah.
Thankfully at the minute it's not quite like that. I really do think police have gotten a hold on these guys, and also the other thing is that a lot of them have moved overseas because life here was so unbearable and also dangerous. Unbearable because the police were cracking down on them, and then dangerous because of their rivals.
Josh, tough one to talk about, in your article this morning, page 7 of the Daily Telegraph, reflects on the life of Lilie James and the crime that we saw last week at the school in the city.
Just awful.
So hard to get your head around. It was all the talk, of course, last week. Unimaginable is probably the best way to put it. The research you've done into the case, which we're constantly learning about, the news broke that, a beautiful young girl, a teacher at a school, had been murdered, and then the hunt was on to find him, which resulted at the gap there in Watson's Bay. What does your article go in, and what have you learnt since?
Yeah, I think one of the earliest kind of points of confusion was, why were they there so late?
What time was it?
So my understanding is that CCTV last captures Lilie at around 7 o'clock going into the bathroom, and then Paul Thijssen goes in not long after, around the same time.
And is that unusual to be there at that time?
Well, this is the thing. So Paul Thijssen worked at the school in the sports department, and because if you know where St Andrews is in the city, there's not a lot of room for, sporting grounds and that kind of thing. So often the kids get bussed off to external facilities, sports ground, pool, whatever it may be. And then at the end of training, all the equipment is brought back, and it's kind of his job to catalogue it and put it away.
Right.
So that's why he was there, and that's why she was there bringing some of the stuff back.
Returning things.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately we cover a lot of tragedies, and you can get a little bit desensitized, probably in the same way, people who work nurses or, people who work in police, some of these professions do, but you really notice when one hits you that it's serious. And straight away, when I first got a call about this, somebody just said, this is a shocker. This is as bad as it gets. And I think, you look at every other news site around Australia, not just Sydney, it's leading the coverage. That's, this has shocked the country. Because
we learnt that the incident involved a hammer. Was it premeditated? Is the footage show him walk into the change rooms or wherever it was with a hammer? Or was...
Yeah, I'm not quite sure, and that is what police are really looking at, is how premeditated it was. I'm sure you'll have seen that they had a brief romance that came to an end recently. So police are looking at, was he expecting her to be there? Where did he get this weapon from? Was it at the school? I'm not sure. Thankfully, I haven't seen the footage. But yeah, it's all part of an ongoing investigation, despite the fact that, they obviously have a fair inkling what has occurred.
And you're saying when you, I think the word you used was shocker. Is that the feeling you're getting from everybody who's working across this case? Obviously, not just the journalists, but people closer to the ground as well.
Yeah, totally. Police are shocked by it. Society is. Yeah. We unfortunately see this too often, though. I remember earlier this year we had the case of Danielle Lilie James, who was a girl, who was found dead in her bed in Sydney's West. Last year there was a young girl, Mackenzie Anderson, who was, stabbed in Newcastle. And I spoke to her mum a few months later, actually, and one of the things that she said to me was that she just couldn't get over thinking about how scared her daughter would have been in that moment. And I've been thinking about that a bit with Lilie James, You
mentioned you'd spoken to some of her housemates or friends or...
Yeah. I
Lilie's?
Yeah, so today's story is actually some friends of Paul Thijssen.
Right.
Just saying that they're shocked too.
Right. Surprised.
Not
totally. Out of character.
100%. He was a sports captain at the school, clearly held in high regard at the school during his days there, enough so that they gave him a job afterwards, and they're just, they can't believe what he, that it got to this point.
Hard to get your head around. Josh, thank you, mate. Not easy to talk about and appreciate it. And
thank you.
All the research in the article in the Daily Telegraph this morning. Thanks for coming in, mate.
Thanks for having me.
Fitzy and Whipper with Kate Ritchie is a Nova podcast. For more great comedy shows like this, head to novapodcast.com.au.